Thank you, Chairman. First, let me, from Jacksonville, send prayers for peace and justice to Minneapolis, and prayers for justice through every community across our nation. Thank you, Chairman Clyburn, Ranking Member Scalise, and subcommittee members for this opportunity. This is my 5th year as mayor of Jacksonville, Florida, the most populous city in the state and the 12th largest in the nation. The people of Jacksonville are kind, generous, and resilient. They have risen up to face this crisis in ways that are both wise and compassionate, and I'm incredibly proud to serve as their mayor. On the topic of this hearing, and given the fact that Jacksonville has been well served by the federal response from President Trump and Congress, let me say thank you on behalf of my city to all of you. President Trump and Governor DeSantis have provided the foundation that our local response has been built upon. Together, as we saw this virus coming, we took actions immediately to flatten the curve and protect our health systems. We prevented dire situations like we saw elsewhere, with doctors forced to make impossible decisions about who can live and die due to shortages of life-saving equipment. In Jacksonville, we never exceeded the capacity of our local healthcare facilities to respond. Governor DeSantis and our city's emergency teams created rapid responses to senior assisted living facilities to prevent hotspots from seeing the terrible outcomes reported in other parts of the nation. As a result, since the first week of April, we have seen steady declines in the percentages of positive COVID-19 tests. With a flattened curve in Jacksonville, and with the advice of healthcare experts, we've begun a pathway back to work and toward a new normal. While the medical community is working hard and there are promising leads, the fact is we may not have a vaccine for quite some time. But we cannot quarantine and shut down the nation's economy indefinitely. Doing so puts too great a burden, financial and otherwise, on our neighbors and our families. It would, in fact, be a cure worse than the disease. An example of the quarantine's unintended impact on my city is seen in opioid overdoses. Since we declared a state of emergency on March 13th, our overdose 911 calls have outpaced the 2019 numbers significantly every single week. But that's not the only area where we're seeing the impacts of the national shutdown. Many have lost jobs and income due to COVID-19. Small businesses have struggled to stay open, and some have had to close. People are struggling with depression and other mental health issues. Many more are anxious to know how they'll keep their homes, pay their bills, and just simply put food on the table. We've taken major steps to help those affected in our city. We've promoted access to financial relief, mental health services, and business resources. We set up a small business loan and grant program so businesses could keep employees on the payroll, and it's worked. We started a mortgage, rent, and utility relief program providing $1,000 in direct assistance to 45,000 Jacksonville households using the CARES Act funding. These programs, along with safe, smart, incremental reopening of our city and economy, have lessened the impact as compared to other regional metropolitan areas. But our people are still hurting. Personal responsibility plays a big role in the move forward. In Jacksonville, I encourage citizens to wear masks in public settings, specifically where it's difficult to maintain social distancing. Another tool in our reopening strategy is testing. Our daily testing capacity is already double the amount experts say is a must, and we're still adding more, much of which is thanks to the CARES Act funding. In January, while the World Health Organization was still saying it wasn't clear this virus could be spread person to person, and while China was not sharing all the data they had, we could not have imagined losing 100,000 of our fellow Americans, nor could we imagine dealing with derailing one of the most prosperous economic periods in American history. For my community and all you represent, I ask you to challenge other nations and international health professionals to explain why more wasn't done at the origin to stop this silent killer from invading the United States. I respectfully request you consider additional federal funding for state and local governments that you can ensure is used for COVID-19 responses and not another excuse to repair bad choices made pre-COVID-19. Over 5 years of reining in debt and implementing pension reform, Jacksonville put in place resources to sustain through a time of economic crisis. Local governments deserve access to the dollars they send to Washington, but not as a reward for poor fiscal decision-making. I appreciate the opportunity to tell Jacksonville's story. With smart planning and a shared vision for a new future, I'm certain all of us in this great nation will come back stronger than ever. Thank you.